Okay, so here we are again in Photoshop, and we're on to the next lesson. Now you must complete this first lesson before you can obviously move on to the second lesson. And it's very important that you understand how to make this grid on the floor so that we can create this measurable space that we're trying to, okay? So let's go. So we're going to actually build something like this. We're going to create a floor, a back wall, ceiling, some side walls, and introduce some figures. Just very simply create this sense of there being a real interior space. Okay, just have a look at some of these things. Don't forget the darkening that happens in the corners. These little visual clues that help us to identify this as being a real space. Okay, so turn these off, and I'm going to take you through. Oops, something wrong when I'm capturing with my mouse here. Take you through this. Now let's go very quickly. You can always pause this and go back and do it again. So I'm going to duplicate or copy this layer, Control J, and I'm going to use my move tool over here. These little handles should be here. If they're not here, remember, go up to the top. I can't show you the menu bar, it's off the screen at the moment. Go up to the top and turn on the show transform controls, and you'll see these little boxes here, these control handles. Okay, so I'm going to take that layer and we're going to flip it up. It's just gone off the screen at the moment, so I'm going to drag it down. Here it is. So I've just sort of flipped it up. Now you can use the up and down arrow keys to nudge it into place to get it exactly in the right place. And I might just take it up a little bit more, take it right up to the corner there, and nudge it back down again. So this is going to be this ceiling now is going to give us a guide of where to put the top of the wall, because remember, this line here will be the top edge of the wall, this line down here would be the bottom edge of the wall. Okay, right, so we're going to start with the back wall. Make sure you hit enter, by the way, otherwise you won't be able to do anything until that transformation has actually been entered. I'm going to use my rectangle tool down here. Again, remember, it's set to pixels just like the line tool last lesson. I'm going to go right in the corner of the room here and drag it up right to the top left hand corner. You can go the other way if you like. Make sure this is accurate. Now it's come out as white, and I don't actually want it to be white. I want it to be a mid-grey. So what I've done here is just click onto the little colour picker down here and make sure that rather than being white or black, it's halfway between the two, or roughly. It doesn't have to be exactly, but makes it about 50%. So let's just get rid of this. Anyway, I've made a mistake because I made it on the wrong layer, so we need to make a new layer. So go to here, or the top menu, or simply press Shift Control and N. Make a new layer. Let's call this rear wall, just so we don't get confused like I just did with the layers there. And now we've got the right colour selected and our rectangle tool, and we're going to accurately draw a rectangle right up to those corners, and that's going to be our back wall. Okay, there it is. Now, while we've got this here, we can make this into a selection by going onto the actual layer here on the layer palette, and just hold down Control, and it turns it to turns the hand to a little hand with a square, and that actually makes a selection. You can see the marching ant, so it's a selection. I'm going to use a brush tool. I'm going to make sure, please, you don't use some of these other brushes. It's the top, just the plain old brush tool. Choose a large soft brush from up the top here. You'll see some little drop down menus at the top. I've got a 300 pixel brush here, which is about right. Actually, I think this is probably, it's not actually, it's 193. Make it about 300 pixels, something like that. That's about 300 pixels. And the colour, go down to the colour picker again, and we're going to make it about a quarter there, or around 75% light, and just make sure your opacity at the top is set around 20% and your flow is set to 20%. And simply just work around, more or less around the middle of the the rectangle here, don't go right into the corners and the edges. Try and concentrate the light on the middle. You need to go several times and create something like that. Make sure it's nice and evenly spread. Control D will deselect that, and it's important that you do that before you move any further. And then we're going to simply copy that layer, Control J, use the Move tool again on the toolbar, the top tool, and we're just going to pull this into shape here until it snaps right into that corner against there. Again, use the arrow keys, in this case left and right arrow, to nudge it into place. I'm going to hold down Control and grab, you see how it changes from the regular scaling tool to a little arrow here, and I'm going to pull that right up to the ceiling. Just let that sort of snap into place up there, and I'm going to pull this one down to the bottom here. Now try to do this fairly accurately. I'm going slightly over the edge there, just to it's fine though, just to make sure it goes into the corner. Press return, and you can already see the beginning of the wall here. It's looking like a real wall with a real space, because naturally the light won't get into those corners. It's called ambient occlusion, which is a posh name for just meaning it sort of light doesn't get right into those corners, it shadows itself. We're just going to duplicate this wall now. I'll just copy it, Control J, and I'm going to move it over here with the Move tool. Put it on the corner there, and if I just grab this handle and move it, you see it's just like opening a box. And we can snap it into position there, hit return, and we've got ourselves the walls of our room. Again, looking quite sort of three-dimensional here, as like a real space. To make the ceiling, we're going to take the rear wall, we're going to copy that again, Control J, I'm just going to click on this to rename it. My mouse isn't working very well. I'm actually using a stylus here. I'm just going to call that ceiling. Okay, hit return, and using the Move tool, I'm going to move it, squash it slightly, move it up. I'm actually holding down the Shift key here so I can sort of constrain it vertically. Just nudge it into place, grab press Control, grab that corner, and just knock it into place over here, and we'll do the same on this one. It all just fits nicely. Hit return. We've got our room. There's a little problem up in the corner here, but not to worry for now. Now for the floor, go back to our original floor here, our original red floor. If you hit Control and U, you're going to bring up the Hue Saturation tool. So that's Control U. And you can see what this is here. Hue just means the colour. In this case it's red, but if I change the colour, you can see the colour's just changing depending on the colour I'm putting up here. We're not actually going to bother with this because we're going to take all of the colour out. We're going to desaturate. We're going to take the saturation. Saturated colour means that there's 100% saturation, there's 100% red. Here there's no red at all. And I'm just going to lighten it, darken it as well, using the lightness tool. Maybe not completely black, but a very dark grey. Okay, and press OK. So almost there. I'm going to just make a new layer underneath here. Okay, just pop it below, drag it down below our floor, and I'm going to fill it with a nice light grey. I think I'll use this same 25% grey here. Use the paint bucket tool. You see it might be hidden under the gradient tool. Use the paint bucket tool and click and boom, and there we are. There's our room completed. Now all you need to do is perhaps bring in some people, and you need to remember how to do that from the first lesson. You still have that file of people in the public folder, or you can find some more on the internet. If you know how to select them, you can bring them in and put them into Photoshop. But if you don't know how to do that, use the ones that I've already prepared for you on the public folder.